What's the one ingredient that defines Indian food? The one thing that makes a curry, that gives samosas their heat, chutneys their kick, and street food its fire. If you said chilies, you're right, but also very, very wrong. Because here's the twist, chilies aren't even from India. Wait, what? The one spice most people associate with Indian food, the heat that makes your eyes water, the burn that lingers on your lips, it's not Indian at all? In fact, before the 1500s, Indian food had a completely different type of heat. Chilies, they weren't just missing, they didn't exist here. So where did they really come from? Long before chilies ever touched an Indian dish, they were used for something far more intense than cooking. The Aztecs weaponized chilies, burning them to create clouds of tear-inducing smoke to blind their enemies. But they weren't just a weapon, chilies were sacred, used in rituals, medicines, and even as currency. For over 7,000 years, chilies were an American secret. Then the Spanish arrived, and what happened next changed the entire world. Because in the 1500s, it was the Portuguese who controlled key trade routes between Europe, Africa, and Asia who brought these fiery little peppers to India. And what happened next? A culinary takeover so complete, it rewrote history. So, how did an ingredient from across the world become the heart of Indian cuisine? And why do we now associate India with spice when its most famous one isn't even native? If Indian food wasn't always spicy, what did it taste like before chilies arrived? Indian cooking got its heat from black pepper and long pepper. Unlike chilies, these spices didn't hit you with an instant burn. Their heat was slower, deeper, and more aromatic. Black pepper was sharp and biting, the kind of heat that lingers in the throat rather than setting your tongue on fire. Before chilies, Indian cuisine relied on other bold flavors. Sourness came from tamarind and dried mango, amchur, adding depth and tang to curries and chutneys. The richness of ghee and yogurt softened the edges of sharp spices, creating a balance of intensity and creaminess. The deep fermented tang of pickles and lentils provided layers of umami. Instead of a fiery burn, heat was layered, balanced, and complex. Spices played off each other in subtle ways. The sharpness of mustard seeds, the warmth of ginger, and the bitter edge of fenugreek. Each ingredient had its role. Even without chilies, Indian food was full of intensity, just in a different way. Mustard seeds, for example, weren't just for flavor. They delivered a sharp, sinus-opening heat when fried in oil. Ginger brought a spicy warmth that tingled on the tongue rather than burned. Pomegranate seeds, dried kokum, and raw mango were often used to add tang to balance the richness of ghee-based dishes. But then, everything changed. Chilies were stronger, cheaper, and easier to grow than long pepper. Slowly, they took over. The complex, layered heat of black pepper and long pepper disappeared, replaced by the sharp, fiery burn of chilies. Suddenly, a single spice could deliver intensity on its own, no need for the slow interplay of multiple warming ingredients. It happened so completely that today, most people don't even know that Indian food once tasted different. That once, spice wasn't just about fire, it was about warmth, depth, and layers of flavor. So how did this transformation happen? How did chilies take over so completely, erasing the spices that once ruled Indian cuisine? You're still here, so you clearly enjoyed that, but we both know you're not going to subscribe after the video, so let's do it together now. In 3, 2, 1, click! For centuries, India was the land of spice. The world came here for black pepper, the black gold of the spice trade. Wars were fought over it, fortunes made from it, and European powers were desperate to control it. But in the early 1500s, something unexpected arrived on Portuguese ships, something that would transform Indian cooking forever. Portuguese didn't set out to change Indian food. They came to India for black pepper, which was worth its weight in gold. They didn't bring chilies to India for their own use. Soon they weren't just another imported spice, they were a game changer. They were cheaper, spicier, and easier to grow. Black pepper took years to cultivate and was expensive to produce. It needed tropical conditions, climbing vines, careful cultivation. Chilies, they could grow anywhere. They didn't require complex processing. They spread like wildfire, literally and figuratively. And they produced more heat. Chilies didn't just enter Indian cuisine, they conquered it. But why did they succeed so completely? And what happened to black pepper, the spice that once ruled the world? The answer lies in a mixture of biology, economics, and sheer intensity. Chilies weren't just spicy. They were easier to grow, more potent, and, perhaps most importantly, they triggered something in the human brain that black pepper never could. Capsaicin, the compound that makes chilies hot, wasn't designed for us. It evolved as a defense mechanism. Unlike black pepper, which has a sharp but fleeting bite, capsaicin targets pain receptors directly, mimicking the sensation of burning. But here's the trick. Capsaicin only affects mammals. Birds, which help spread chili seeds, feel nothing. Nature didn't make chilies for us. It made them to be eaten by creatures that wouldn't destroy their seeds. But humans, we did something no other species did. Instead of avoiding the burn, we embraced it. Chilies hijack the nervous system. They make the body think it's in pain, triggering an endorphin rush. The same response as a runner's high. Over time, the more chilies you eat, the more your body craves them. And so, black pepper, the spice that once fueled wars, built trade empires, and was worth its weight in gold, was replaced. In just a few generations, it was no longer the king of heat. Today, we take it for granted. The burn, the fire, the unmistakable kick of Indian food. But it wasn't always this way. The chili didn't just change Indian food. It rewired our relationship with spice. And in doing so, it erased an entire history of heat that came before it. Today, India is one of the largest chili producers in the world. A spice that came from across the ocean became the defining ingredient of Indian cuisine. For centuries, Indian food has been celebrated as the world's spiciest, boldest, and most complex cuisine. But what if I told you some of its most essential ingredients aren't even from India? Tomatoes, Portuguese. Potatoes, from the Americas.
Even tea, introduced by the British from China. These weren't ancient Indian staples. They arrived through trade, war, and colonization. Foreign at first, but now inseparable from Indian food. So what does this mean? Is Indian food less authentic? Of course not. Food is never frozen in time. It evolves, adapts, it transforms. Indian cuisine didn't just accept chilies, tomatoes, and potatoes. It made them its own. In fact, India took chilies and did something no other culture could, turning them into the soul of its cuisine. The next time you take a bite of spicy curry, remember, that fire, that heat, that burn, it started 7,000 miles away. But it didn't just stop in India. Chilies rewrote the flavors of the world. From Sichuan to Senegal, from Thailand to Turkey, no cuisine was left untouched. And yet, chilies weren't alone. Chocolate, discovered by the Mayans. Tomatoes, once feared as poison in Europe. I have a video on that. Coffee, banned in the Ottoman Empire for being too addictive. Food history is full of surprises, and the best food stories, they're the ones you never knew. What other food origins shock you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And also, I don't eat chili, I don't like it. I feel it assaults the palate. What do you think? Who loves to eat loads of chili dishes? Who loves it so hot? Who is more sensitive? Is anyone allergic to chili? How hot can you go? Put all your chili thoughts in the comments. I'll read them all. Want more? Subscribe to Bread and Potatoes, because every bite has a story. Thanks for watching, and also please visit my Patreon and join, where there are loads of lovely benefits. Thank you very much for being with me today.